See, I can see somebody walking a dog.
Oh, it's over now.
Well, but no, T-Berry hasn't even seen this one yet. I don't even know what he's barking at now.
He's like 3 dogs behind. He's like 3 dog walkers and dogs behind.
Yeah.
I think your dog has little man's complex.
Oh, see, there's the second one.
This is the second one. We got one more to go.
No, this is it wasn't 3, it was 2. This is the second.
This is the 2. Good. The second of 2. Get it out of your system, dog.
Cool it, T.
Peter Bogdanovich has died. I don't know if you saw that.
No, because Britt, I don't get notifications on my phone.
Saw them. I don't know if you got it or not.
I don't get those.
It's funny, which is strange because sometimes when I send you a text, you don't see it for 48 or 72 hours. It's the oddest thing.
Well, because I do get them, but I don't look at them.
Yeah, so this could have been the same thing. You could have gotten it and not seen it.
I just got a notification on my phone. Trump won the election.
He did. No, everybody knows it. It's about time you acknowledged it. Took you long enough. I'll see you at the rally in Arizona on the 15th, pal. Outnumbered was very concerned about the Macron statement. Very, very upset about that.
Oh, really? That was
Oh, that was, they don't like that at all. And this cash bail thing in New York, Fox is really concerned about this whole the no cash bail thing.
Smirkanish comes on this morning. I guess he drives in really early to his studio. So he says that, at 6 o'clock, he was listening to Fox, on Sirius. Of course, CNN is all over it. Okay, they're just nonstop. It's too much. There needs to be a happy medium. All right.
These people are doing too much, and these people are doing none at all.
Right, but so he said he says on Fox, it was the Chicago Teachers Union. Okay, that was the. and no mention. He said it was just absolutely no mention. For the first half hour, if at all. So
that's funny.
And by the way, I support that. I don't think you should. I think you should be able to have a safe space in this country, don't you?
Dutch oven prisoner with the wife. Explain.
All right, here we go.
Ready.
It's the Brad and Britt cast. It's our last one for this week, and what a week it has been. Boy, I got some great choices for you, but you go ahead. Pick the direction that we want to go in, whether it's critiquing Joe Biden's attempt to make a speech on January 6th, which, by the way, failed badly.
It was miserable. He was a stumbling, bumbling fool up there.
But you know what? I'll tell you, I did not watch it. I was listening to it. All right,
I saw clips.
Listening to it, and the great thing, or maybe not the great thing about Joe Biden is he only has 2 settings on his volume meter. It's really low. Sometimes he leans in, or right. It's 11. Okay, which by the way, they did run Spinal Tap on Turner Classic Movies last. I forgot. How fucking great.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant movie. It was so far ahead of its time. Yeah. It's an amazing it's an amazing film, and it's like there's shit about it you forgot that's like so good because
anyway, so Biden either is whispering Joe or he's 11, and he was mostly 11 on this day, and you know what? Deservedly so.
Well, he calls out Donald Trump for spreading the lie, and
right. But
the thing I love. Yeah, go ahead.
He never said Trump's name. He never actually said his name, which of course is a double piss him off thing. I love that he crafted it that way, or the speechwriters crafted it that way.
One of the things that I like about our audience and the people that have followed us for a number of years is there's so much great journalism and coverage of the commemoration of the January 6, 2021 attacks on the Capitol. We don't have to tell you guys where to go to get it. You know where the good stuff is. You know who's doing it, and you go. But we usually start with some appetizers and work up. This is the one thing on January the 6th that I want you to remember above anything else. If you don't remember anything else from what we talk about today, I was reading an article, I think it was on Slate. There's this guy named Robert Pape, and he is a professor at the University of Chicago. You know this guy?
We had him on once.
Okay.
We did have him on one time.
He's a tenured professor at the University of Chicago. He's taught several places. He's written a lot of stuff. His research into the idea that radicalized terrorists associated with radical Islam were just these dirt poor people in caves. The idea that those people, that's not true, and that they were very privileged people from well-to-do backgrounds. He's one of the guys that's very important in helping lift that up with actual research showing that it was from very wealthy families, well-to-do families. Those were the guys that were involved in a lot of the radical Islam terrorism. So he has done this study, Robert Pape, at the University of Chicago, and he studied more than 700 people that were arrested following the insurrection on January the 6th. Got it? More than 700 human beings. And obviously, the majority of them were white. Obviously, the majority of them were male. Obviously, the majority of them were between 18 and 50. The thread that he found, the strongest thread was this. Listen to this. He found that most of the people who were involved and got arrested, they lived in counties that significantly lost white population between 2010 and 2020. That was the strongest thread among all of those people. And I want you to remember that among everything else, because people are going to tell you, these people are just race peddlers over here, and the 1619 Project and critical race theory and all this stuff. Race plays a part in all of this. When you have a Capitol Police officer who's on the ground getting kicked and spat upon, being called nigger, you can't tell me that there's not a racial component to this. When you have Confederate flags going to the Capitol, you can't tell me there's not a racial component to this. A lot of this, and what we saw on January the 6th, in addition to the big lie, was white people getting nervous that they're not going to be, quote unquote, in charge anymore. That's what it is. It was called economic anxiety 10 or 12 years ago, which we knew was bullshit. This is just white people getting nervous about shit, not liking it, and becoming very violent about it. That's what happened on January the 6th of 2021. So that is the morsel that I want you to take away from this podcast, if you take nothing else away. Of course, we know that you're going to retain everything that we say over the next few minutes.
Well, with that all being true, that kind of has been true for a long time in this country. And we know that Trump ascended to the presidency by not allowing dogs to bark when he's making speeches. By picking at that and poking at it,
right,
and speaking directly to those people. And so if you add what Pape learned in his research, plus finding a demagogue willing to go there over and over and over again, and make that the basis of his very being, and convince you that even as a guy supposedly really, really rich, the last thing that would ever threaten Donald Trump would be the diversification racially of this country. First of all, he was from New York, which is already a very, very diverse place. It didn't seem to inhibit his success. So he is the worst of the worst, and they marched on his orders. Pape is brilliant. I direct you, if you really want to hear something kind of interesting on other podcasts, the Daily, the New York Times Daily, they got a hold of one of the 3 transcripts of the interviews, and there's only 3 of the hundreds of people that have been apprehended and charged that the FBI has let out there. And they got a hold of one of the scripts, and they performed it. They hired some voice actors as the FBI agent and the guy who was sitting there getting grilled. And there's a third person, another agent there, of course, because it's just like on Law and Order. It has to be two people going at it. It's never one-on-one. There's always a second person in there, right? And this guy makes the case. He's in his 50s. He's a FedEx driver, no longer, of course, a FedEx driver, from suburban Washington, D.C., registered Democrat, claims that he was just going down there to see what was going on, and really had no. He got swept up in the lies of the day, and he was really concerned about the election. All those things that you heard, but to hear in a guy's own words say that, and of course, after he was done with this interview, and hours before the judge was going to sentence him, some new evidence popped up that kind of put a lie to a lot of what he was saying about his relative innocence.
Oh, geez.
From being a guy who really, wasn't bent on violence. It's very good. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's 35, 40 minutes, which, in our world is forever, takes a long time. But if you listen to podcasts like I do, which is I'm always doing something else.
Yes.
Does anybody just sit in a chair and listen? I guess some people do.
Rarely. But I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I'm driving. I'm doing something usually. Yeah. And that's what makes it so great. I think that's a really good point. And a couple of other ones now that I'm thinking about it. There was a former High Point police officer that was charged, and you probably saw this last year. What you may not have seen is that she and her brother decided that they were going to destroy some of the evidence from January the 6th, including burning their clothes and some other stuff in a allegedly now, but this is part of the indictment. Last August, they went back and they charged her with trying to destroy some evidence, including trying to burn her clothes that she wore on January the 6th of 2021. So that I thought that was very interesting. The other thing that I would say about your FedEx guy who may or may not have been swept up in the moment, because I truly believe that
he's my FedEx guy now, huh? That's my boy.
Well, there were a number of people that went to the rally. They kind of marched up to the steps, and then when they saw what they went, fuck it, I'm out. We're not hearing a lot of those voices, but there were some of those people. There were some of those people who went, I don't think I signed up for this. I'm going to catch an Uber and maybe try to get a movie. There were a couple of people who did that.
Right. What happened with this guy who, for the first half of the interview with the FBI, is saying, I just was kind of going to the Capitol, looking around. Well, then I got swept up in it, and then I got out of there, and I went home. And then I turned on the TV and I was just shocked at what I was seeing. But there's a problem. Some other video surfaced of him really putting it to one of the police officers.
You see, but Brad, we call that an alternative set of facts. That's an alternative set of facts that was presented. Right. I would say this about people like this guy who were claiming, and some other folks who were claiming to have been swept along. One of my favorite podcasts of 2021 was called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, and it was about one of these mega churches up in Seattle, thousands of members, and they had people who were led by this pastor named Mark Driscoll. You should Google it because it's really fascinating. And you have people who were driven by Christianity, and they helped a lot of people and did a lot of stuff, but there were also a lot of bad things that happened, and there was a misuse of funds, and they paid to get this guy on the New York Times bestseller list, and he abused people verbally and was just awful to people. And one of the guys in the podcast who was part of this whole thing goes, I want you to think about this. If you think that you or your family are way too smart to ever get involved in any sort of cult-like behavior and be dragged along by this, then you are not getting the point of what we're talking about. If you think that you are too bright and your family is not susceptible to be used by some vehicle, whether it be religion, whether it be politics, whether it be some civic mindedness or whatever, then you're full of shit. Everybody should know that at some point they might be, or a family member might be susceptible to this shit, and you should always be wary about it. Because there are some people that were there who never thought they would get, and there are some people, I truly believe, who look at what they're seeing on the screen, and they see some of this stuff, and they're like, holy shit, what did I do? I believe some of that happened. Now, I know that there were a lot of people who went there fully intending to do exactly what happened. They wanted to go in and break windows, get in the Capitol, and terrorize people. The Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, those people were on scene. Again, those videos are out there, and they show those people being organized with radios and with riot gear on and vests and all of that stuff. But then I do think there were some people who did get swept up.
Right. People like this guy will make the case that he was not a part of any organized group at all, and he did get swept up in it. And it's not. By the way, his ultimate sentence was 3 months. By the way, I have the numbers on what kind of prosecution figures are out there from what we have so far, and the tone, of course, is to let you know that Merrick Garland is a puss who's doing nothing. Which, by the way, I do not believe that for a second. Okay, I believe, till proven wrong, that we are seeing a classic mafia-style roll-up here, and the Don, who is, of course, the ultimate target, is being made to sweat a little bit more each day. Right now, the number of people charged, 705. Don't know how many more cases are ahead. 174 guilty pleas. Only 2 of those guilty pleas were made without some kind of deal being made. I guess those are people that want to go to trial. 74 sentences have been meted out. The longest sentence somebody got was 63 months. The lightest sentence was 2 months probation. The total amount of money, I don't want to play high-low with you here, Britt, it's embarrassing. The amount of money that rioters owe the government so far, a grand total of $160,500.
700 people owing that much money?
Yeah. One defendant is barred from profiting off of January 6th. Apparently, this guy tried to sell off and write a book about his experiences, and they told him, nope, not going to happen. 3 people have challenged their sentences, including the guy with the horns, Chansley, that guy. One of the great lies that gets told over and over again is there were no weapons. Right? No weapons there.
That's funny.
However, of the 700 and some people that have been arrested and charged, 98 of them are charged with using or carrying weapons. And by the way, you've watched enough TV. It was probably planted on most of them by the cops, right? And then,
you almost have to think of a weapon that wasn't used on January the 6th of 2021. Chainsaws. I don't believe there were any chainsaws. I mean, that's about it. They were beating the one guy with a fucking American flag. Irony is dead. Honestly, I mean, it's
164 people charged with assaulting cops.
Yeah.
54 charged with conspiracy. People charged so far with sedition or insurrection, 0.
Oh,
people, and I think he's saving that. I think that's being saved.
Well,
for the people who really planned this. I don't think that you need to charge these. These are the street level drug dealers who sell bags of $10 bags of marijuana. Back in my day, we called them dime bags.
Dime bags, is that what they were?
Were they still dime? Yeah,
it's a dime bag. Well, because of inflation, they're now dollar bags. But it's Joe Biden has really driven those up.
They've still never caught anybody who would be charged with putting the pipe bombs in front of both the RNC and the DNC headquarters. So that person is still out there. People accused of channeling their anger towards Nancy Pelosi, at least 16. So this is, social media taunts and people, 378 felony charges, 327 misdemeanors. There are 22 judges hearing this stuff. So it's, and of course, they're not even close to being done here.
Well, I do want to address this because a lot of this criticism of Merrick Garland is coming from the left. It's coming from Democrats. He's not making a fucking TikTok video. Okay. This is not going to be over in 30 seconds. It takes a long time to build this case. And he made that point. He was trying to tell people, folks, I know you're not seeing anything right now. I know Tom Brady hasn't gone in the end zone, but we're driving down the field. So I hope people can relax a little bit, know that he's on the case and he's building this stuff. I know it's very frustrating for a lot of folks.
It's hard for a couple of obvious reasons here, which is, and of course, this always ends hopefully with nothing happens until something really happens, and then it happens really, really fast. That's what certainly happened with Watergate. They were a lot faster with getting judicial proceedings along in Watergate than they are here. But again, that was a different story. It was more concentrated. It wasn't about hundreds and hundreds of people.
No.
And so it's not quite analogous. But because you got to get people to rat other people out, it takes a long time. But there isn't a lot of time to be had because of the E-word elections. And we know that this committee, goes poof like LeBron James throwing up the chalk at the beginning of a game if the Republicans gain control of the House of Representatives, and then that will turn into the committee to impeach Joe Biden for all kinds of egregious violations.
Well, you got to impeach him at least twice because Trump got impeached twice. Right. So you got to at least he's got to be at least two, right?
Right.
Just to even the scales.
So, we'd all like to see it happen really, really fast. But here's the problem, and it's the C word, Constitution. We do have, unfortunately, a Constitution that affords rights even to the most horrible among us, including those who would plot to overthrow the very government whose very precepts are built on the Constitution that they pretend to love, but are using every little nook and cranny of it to delay, deny, and get away with a plot to overthrow the United States government. So at one level, we're our own worst enemy. On the other level, we're not China or Russia or Iran, where if somebody in charge thinks you did something wrong, they come to your house, they walk you down to the stadium, and you get a bullet in the back of your head by 4 in the afternoon. We don't do it that way. No. We just don't do it that way. And it's frustrating, but I'm going to defer to Merrick Garland right now until proven wrong. And no, he isn't a complete fuckwad asshole like Bill Barr. Thank God. Thank God.
He is.
Okay. He's not that guy willing to break and bend every rule to get the outcome that he supposedly might want, with the guidance of a president telling him what to do, which is not happening now, as opposed to what Bill Barr was doing, which is, we certainly forget that it wasn't much more than a year ago that 1,000 times we kept hearing Bill Barr is the Attorney General of the United States. He's supposed to represent the United States, the people of the United States, and he's Donald Trump's personal lawyer. How many times do we hear that? All right. Do you ever hear that about Merrick Garland? The answer is no, because he's not that guy. And this is what at one level we want, but at another level, it's frustrating with someone who really does play by the rules, because we know the other guys don't, and we know.
That's the weirdness of it. It's like the other thing was so normalized, being inhumane and inhuman and being just a flack for the president was normalized so much. It's almost kind of weird to see somebody doing it. Oh, you're doing it the right way, the way it's supposed to be done. And I understand people are impatient. I do get it. But Merrick Garland was not built for social media, TikTok, fast food world. He's not that guy. You're not going to order the Big Mac, drive around. He's going to have it for you, steaming hot. That's not what Merrick Garland does. But it's unfortunate that he had to make that press conference and go, look, guys, I promise you that I'm on this. I swear to God, it's just going to take a little while. But, I've got faith in this guy. I do want to talk about one other thing. There was this article about Ashley Babbitt that's been out. This is written by a guy who grew up about 45 miles from where I'm sitting as of right now, Michael Biesecker for the Associated Press. Ashley Babbitt, a martyr. Her past tells a more complex story. Ever tell you the story about how I yelled at Michael Biesecker in my house last time the Raiders were in the Super Bowl?
I remember you told me the story, but of course I don't remember the story. And by the way, I hate to circle back to something you said earlier, but yes, you are in a cult, the LA Raiders cult.
You're still 2 cities behind. Well, they won a championship in LA, so I guess I'll take it.
Did I say LA? I meant LV.
LV. Sunday night, winning in. So the story is very, very good. A couple of salient points about Ashley Babbitt, who is being martyrized and memorialized and hand wrung and all this other shit today. There's a great story that this woman, apparently they lived just outside of D.C. at one point in time, she and her then husband. And there was another woman who was with her boyfriend. Ashley started having an affair with the boyfriend of this woman. So this woman got upset, calls Ashley's husband at the time and says, hey, this is going on. I think you should know that she's fucking my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. At one point in time, Ashley Babbitt finds this woman on the interstate passing by her, turns her SUV around, goes down the highway, rear ends this woman, bumps her off the road. The woman has to call 911 as Ashley tries to go up to the window and threaten her. So this is the kind of woman that Ashley Babbitt is. I'd also like to point out Ashley Babbitt's attorney, and I saw the guy's name, and I can't remember it now, but he's in the greater D.C. area, and he's pretty well recognized. I think he's argued before the Supreme Court. His argument, and he's thinking very hard, Brad, very hard about filing a lawsuit against the Capitol Police. Or, and hear me out, he's going to milk a lot of this crowdfund money and then just pocket it and not do shit. It's one of those two things. His argument is, and you've seen how she died. You can see the snuff film in any number of forms. I don't have to tell you where to go get it again. This audience is too smart for me to explain that. If the Capitol Police would have just explained to her that she needed to stop, Ashley's experience as a veteran, she would have followed their orders, Brad. This is literally the argument that her attorney is making. I'm telling you, this is what the man who is representing the family of Ashley Babbitt has said. As a veteran, she would have followed orders, would have stood down, and would have gone and got a Frosty.
Well, I mean, that's so transparently stupid. It's too stupid to talk about, since the percentage of military veterans of those 700, I believe, is upwards of 10 to 12%, which, as you know, is way out of proportion of the number of, the people who serve in the military in this country. It's way out of proportion.
Very important.
Apparently, they didn't listen to someone giving orders to try to not overthrow the government. And when they took their oath to the Constitution, when they were sworn in the military, they didn't pay attention to that. All right, here's okay. You'll like this. No, you won't like this. This is actually horrible. Chuck Schumer said today, Thursday, that one of the Capitol rioters reportedly made anti-Semitic remarks against him while pursuing his goals in the January 6th insurrection. I was within 30 feet of these nasty, racist, bigoted insurrectionists, said Schumer. Had someone had a gun, had two of them blocked off the door, who knows what would have happened. I was told later that one of them reportedly said, there's the big Jew. Let's get him.
He's not that big.
Well, first of all, and I was checking this out. You're right. You know who the big Jew is? It's Brad Garrett. Okay.
Brad Garrett
he's 6'8". That's a big Jew. That's a big Jew.
That's funny.
I was waiting to spring that one on you. I knew you'd like it.
Sure.
Like it. Hey, I got a good one here. How about a Betty White fake quote? Have you heard this one?
We're taking the Betty White challenge. If you haven't seen it, you're supposed to donate money to your favorite Humane Society animal shelter thing. I think it's on the 15th or something, whatever her birthday was supposed to be. Yeah, go ahead. What's your favorite fake Betty White quote?
The fake Betty White quote is, in effect, about a week before she died, she allegedly said, I just got boosted. So the anti-vaxxers are trying to make the case that she died from the coronavirus vaccine, which, again, it's too stupid to talk about. It's too stupid to talk about someone who's 99, almost 100, dying, even if it was true that she actually did get vaccinated with the booster that late. And as you know, people who have brains, and she had brains, Mom, I'm just guessing she didn't wait all these months to get that third shot. I'm just guessing that. But let's pretend that it is
it killed
true.
her.
Right. People at that age tend to, at some point, just die. Okay. But it doesn't matter because they grab anything, they make up anything to justify opposition to getting vaccinated. And I have to tell you something, as crazy as this story is, when I'm 99, not getting any booster shots for any vaccines for any virus. Okay,
you show
him.
Yeah, you show him. You show him who's boss on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
There is some news from this day. They interviewed Stephanie Grisham, who was there toward the end of the administration. She actually resigned, I believe, on January the 6th because she was horrified at what she saw. Trump gleefully watched the Capitol attack on TV, hitting rewind. He enjoyed it so much. That's what she was telling the folks on CNN. Stephanie Grisham has also said that she cooperated fully and completely with the January 6th committee. Right.
She's that last press secretary who Trump would never allow to give a press conference. Okay.
That's the right
one. She never
yes.
did a daily press briefing. You never heard a word out of her. But that part where she describes Trump sitting there with a remote control, rolling it back like he's watching the greatest touchdown pass ever thrown by Aaron Rodgers. Hey, look at Aaron Rodgers. He threw 180 yards. Fuck, let me watch it again. He's watching this and bragging about the fact and thrilled that people are willing to commit violence on his behalf over and over and over again. And as we know, this is just an iron law of Trump. Every story like this not only is always proven true, but it sometimes even undersells how horrible whatever is being described actually was. So no reason to doubt that Trump is so perverse, and it would bolster the fact that he did nothing for 3 hours. Because as you know, when you're really into a show, okay, and you're rewinding it, you're looking at time doesn't matter, right? You don't even know how long it's going on. It is like being at Vegas at the blackjack table. You can be there for 6 hours and you don't even you think you just got there. Trump was having such a good time that it's kind of not his fault that he didn't pick up the phone or answer messages or allow his stupid daughter to convince him to do something. It wasn't his fault.
Wouldn't it be great if you could?
Great.
Wouldn't it be great if you could subpoena the records and like show how many times he hit the rewind button and shit? You know, if you could go to the whatever cable company or TiVo or whatever it is, and just if you could see he hit the rewind button 163 times in a 3-hour period. That would be wonderful if they could subpoena that shit. I would love to see.
I don't know whether those records exist.
I'd love to see that.
People rewind shit, but it would be. That's one of those. We don't know if it's true, but we hope it is.
I think they got records of. I think they got records of who farted in the White House at what particular time and how long it lasted.
Did you see which Republicans showed up today for Biden's and for Kamala? 2 Republicans. Ready? Liz Cheney,
of course.
Dick Cheney. Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney.
Wow.
And all the Democrats there were completely, of course, absolutely gracious to Dick Cheney. Which it's so funny because one of the taunts and one of the insults today that runs through every Republican who's trying to fucking answer Joe Biden and Kamala Harris today, number one is they politicized January 6th. They politicize it for their own gain. And this is another one. Joe Biden promised to unify the country. That speech was all nastiness. There wasn't one bit of trying to bring the country together. All right. So here, isn't this ironic that it happened today in Washington, not inadvertently, but kind of accidentally, because Dick Cheney, let's face it, he was Darth Vader to most Democrats. But on this day, like his daughter, and you know, this doesn't rehabilitate everything Dick Cheney ever said, but God damn it, fucking hats off to him to make the statement, to show up today at this moment. I mean, that's a classy move. It's a classy move.
brings us to the Wall Street Journal piece written by Karl Rove today, who is blasting Republicans, trying to turn the tables. So how would you feel if this thing was turned around? What if Democrats were the ones who stormed the Capitol? I mean, fucking Karl Rove is growing a conscience. It's unbelievable what's happening. I do want to go back to what you said when you talked about the number of folks who have been arrested who are in the military. Because if you look at other nations that have had democracy overthrown and the will of the people subverted, it's always the people who kind of are able to get the military to go along with it, right? The guys with the guns. And while it didn't happen in 2020, there still is a pernicious cancer that's running through our military that supports this stuff. We don't know how many of these people are doing it. It also apparently exists in some police departments and some other law enforcement. So we have to be, again, the ultimate lesson of all this is it's not over, because these guys could easily take another run at this shit at some point. They may not be a grand event, but you've seen some of the warnings from the FBI and from others this week that, yeah, these cells are still awake and alive and still planning shit. So it's always the people, whether it's the Sudan or whatever you want to talk about, if you get and you're able to kind of get the guys with the guns on your side. That was one of the great things about 2020 and early in 2021 was that there were folks that were associated with the military and high ranking. They said, this is a no sale. We are not going to interfere in this election. We will not draw our guns to keep Donald Trump in office. That's not going to happen. But right, you don't know.
But we know what the issue is. It might not even be. It's not likely that we're ever going to have a classic Latin American style military coup of the army, or that's not. But you do have all these veterans who are out there, millions of veterans who have the training, and many of whom have the weaponry. So we've got that issue that on the surface, we're not those banana republics, but on the other hand, we're kind of those banana republics emeritus. Okay, we have all these former people who are ready to jump in there, including, by the way, military hero Madison Cawthorn, who is, of course, in the Congress now. He served honorably for how many years? And he went to the to West Point, didn't he? I saw.
I think he went to West Asheville, I think is where he went.
West Asheville High.
I think and of course, Madison Cawthorn, our hearts go out to him. He's going through a very difficult divorce, so I want you to pray for him. Okay. I want you to pray for him. It's very, very difficult. DIVORCE
for him.
We were talking before we got started about
when we get through all this important stuff. I do have the most fun story of the day, and it's a good one. And thank God it does involve a Republican doing something stupid, but it has nothing to do with politics itself. So it's in a special category. Go ahead.
When you and I got started, we were talking about how Fox News is really attempting to talk about anything but the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol.
Sure.
I erased a few brain cells by watching a couple of minutes of Outnumbered. Boy, this Macron stuff with Macron going after the unvaccinated is really troubling to the outnumbered guys. They're very upset about this, Brad.
Right. Because as always, it's very important that we follow domestic news in France, because that's kind of really what that is, isn't it?
It's huge.
It's kind of, but
I don't give a shit about this.
And distract. Yeah, this is what they do.
This is the Fox News. We don't give a shit about Europe. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Macron said something, and by the way, Tucker Carlson's going to spend a week in Hungary. But we don't give a shit about Europe at all. Fuck Europe, right? That's the Fox News mantra. They're trying to do anything that they can. The Chicago Teachers Union is troubling to the Fox News people. Very upset about that. The revoking of cash bail in New York City, very upsetting to the Fox News people. I want you to turn your attention, because I ran into a little bit of this myself. This is the front of the foxnews.com. Little history lesson. Kamala Harris doesn't get history. The vice president has described the Capitol riot alongside infamous attacks on America that killed thousands. Now, again, it's not
Britt, hang on. I got to go buy some homogenized milk. Can you homogenize the story anymore, Fox?
I put on my Facebook page that I believe that January the 6th, 2021 and September the 11th of 2001, two events that should be memorialized, commemorated with the same gravity. And of course, most people were going along with it. I did have a couple of assholes who were like, 3,000 people died on 2000. Not the point. Because I believe on November 22nd, 1963, only one guy died. It was only one casualty. Why are you making a big deal about that whole situation? So yes, Kamala Harris, this is how they get away with some sort of coverage, is we're going to wring our hands and be upset about Kamala Harris getting it completely wrong, Brad, and how she's defiling the memories of thousands of Americans, Brad. You're still muted.
It's not even that. It's just forget the details of what they're saying about it.
Yeah.
It's the idea that they're intentionally off point, off base, and I think you do have to approach this with the idea that whoever it is in your family, your brother, your Trump friend, your Trump employee, your Trump neighbor, has not seen the videos of the violence, the hours and hours of basically war footage. It's war footage.
It is.
Right? They are not exposed to that. They haven't been. And they're not interested in seeing it. Why should they? Because if they do see it, it will be the edited version that show people walking up the stairs, the people looking around, taking a few pictures inside the Capitol.
Saying the Pledge of Allegiance and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they will see. And you just have to take that into consideration, that these people have been brainwashed, and they are in full ignorance, let alone denial of what happened, or they are in full knowledge of what happened and they're lying. So I'm not quite sure which is worse. I don't know which is worse.
To be fair, I want to be completely fair. There are a number of people who have been lifelong Republicans who saw the freak show on January the 6th and were disgusted. And there were some who saw it and then saw the minimization and the dismissal over the next year, who were disgusted and have said, I'm not with that. That's not okay.
Right.
There have been some people like that.
But what did they do? Yeah. What have they done? And a year later, we're about 11 months past the temporary headline of corporate America has said we can't stand by and allow this to. We're not going to be funding the Republic. Coca-Cola, Home Depot, Atlanta, but all that.
Yeah.
You know how long that lasted? About a minute, and they're all sending money now to Republicans and the Republican National Committee. They're back. So the fact that we're trying to fight business as usual because we have a whole segment of the country, a whole segment of the media completely invested in trying to bury this moment. They want to turn it into what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. They want it to be like that. Maybe 100 years from now, we'll let people revisit it and find out what really happened. But other than that, no one is to say a word about it, and we're going to lie about it. And by the way, I'm going to put this one out there. Let's see if I'm right. We'll know eventually. One person, and they've talked to over 300 people, they've said. Forget the two that won't cooperate, Mark Meadows and Bannon, fuck them. But they've had high-level cooperation. They may get it here from Mike Pence soon enough.
God bless him.
But the one name you have not heard, Kellyanne. I believe that she talked, and she's keeping quiet about it. No one knows. And I believe you want to talk about a Hollywood ending.
That'd be
to
pretty
that
interesting.
whole story between her husband, who has been completely one of the best people in taking apart Trumpism, the lies, and the rest. They have the problem with the daughter. And here's Kellyanne, who, of course, invented the phrase alternative facts live on TV with Chuck Todd on
That's
NBC early in the administration. That one lives on forever. That's right up there with Stephen Colbert's Truthiness.
Truthiness, yeah.
Truthiness.
Right. The fact-based community, that was a Donald Rumsfeld, I believe.
Right. But the fact that you have not heard a word from her, she hasn't appeared anywhere. I think she went in through the back door one day and talked, and she knows everything. And for Kellyanne, what would be the downside for that? Because it completely redeems her with really the important part of America, us. We count, they don't. She's gotten everything out of being a conservative bullshit artist that she can ever get.
Does she need to keep working though? Does she need to keep working with like some of these crazy
they're so fucking rich. It's not even funny. They're totally rich.
Good.
Okay, they're totally rich. She doesn't need the money. And by the way, the book she would write would be a biggie. She'd get plenty of money just for writing a book. But this also would, I think, of course, and as you know, I'm an expert in this, save their marriage. It would. And so the movie script that you get out of this is just, it's Shakespearean, is it not? If she is the one, or one of many, who helped the Congress and maybe even the FBI at this point and the Justice Department put together the timeline, because she was in the room where it happened just about all the time, from what I gather, right? She was never on the outs. She's one of the few people that never, you heard, was on the outs with Trump, right? I think she left voluntarily for a couple months,
right?
To I don't know, attend to her kid, but she came right back. It was never there was never a Trump trashing her kind of thing, and then even people he trashes come back. So
the rest of that front page at foxnews.com, it's hard to read, but we got some big square off in those Georgia Senate seats. Trump fires back against Biden's criticism. Oh, we have a Joe Exotic story, and Antonio Brown, because we've got video of a black guy freaking out to really scare the shit out of our 86-year-old women who are watching Fox News.
All right, so that leads us to fun and games here at the end. Here we go. Dateline Tennessee.
Hello.
One of the big Republicans in the state of Tennessee is apologizing for his completely stupid behavior at his son's high school basketball game earlier in the week, which included trying to pull down the ref's pants. So think of the Harlem Globetrotters. Think of how many times Meadowlark Lemon would do that. That was one of their standard bits, right? Pulling down the other guy's pants. The name of the referee was Paul Pendleton. The attempted pantsing happened near the end of the third quarter. Both teams got a foul for unsportsmanlike conduct. According to the report, Mr. Pendleton has filed with the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association some charges. Representative Jeremy Faison is the name of the guy. He was ordered to get the fuck out of the gym after he came down from the stands and tried to pants the referee.
And it didn't even work.
I think that's enough. You got enough there.
It didn't even work. He was feckless. The guy wasn't even good at, he wasn't even good at his resurrection of he didn't try to, when he was freeing the wiener or whatever he was doing there.
He is a caucus chair in the Tennessee House of Representatives. He said he did act the fool and hoped to make it right. How do you make this right? What, buy the guy more pants?
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna go out there in front of everybody. I want you to pants me, okay? That's how we're gonna fix it.
For years, I thought how wrong it was when a parent loses their temper at a sporting event. It's not Christian and it's not mature. No, don't fucking bring Christianity into this. Jeez, God.
Hey, let me ask you something. Who would Jesus pants? Huh?
It's a great question.
Could you see him up to the Pharisees? I'm going to go to the Pharisees. Hey, yank. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.